but no Americans and no newcomers either. Everyone here has been at least once. Some, like John McGuinness, have been here many times before. This is his 25th anniversary. Michael Rutter has been here just forever, and of course is the man with all the wins in his pocket. And Peter Hickman is the man with the last 3 wins, well, 3 wins in his pocket. Out of 6 visits to Macau, he's won 3 times, which is the most impressive strike rate. Whether he can continue that run of success remains to be seen. Got a full menu here. That is your man Rutter. There you are, the face of motorcycle racing in Macau for so long, and now realistically thinking about a podium finish here. Didier Graham's runner-up in the International Road Racing Championship this year, a winner of that race, that championship before, but this year's champion is also here today, and there he is. That's the man. Davey Todd won IRRC this year. He's set the track alight just about everywhere he goes, and if anyone was going to do something special here, then you might be thinking he would be that man. 62, Sam West. Crowded garage there, as you can see, 4 bikes per pit box, not a lot of space to work from, and the bikes in the middle of pit lane this year, which means that they have to come in. You can't actually see it there in that shot, but there is just on the right hand side there's a little alleyway going out into pit lane, and bikes will have to come into pit lane and then turn through the alley and be guided back to their pit if they need adjustment or refueling during the course of practice and qualifying. It's a little bit of a mishmash, I think is the right word, because this paddock will be full on Saturday when we go racing. So it's going to be a busy little push through into pit lane. You can see them all now wheeling out. New liveries and new hopes for this year. Horst Seiger, you just saw him walking off. There's his bike being pushed out to join him. And smiling Horst, always a regular here and at road racing throughout the calendar. Andre Pires, Portugal, Yamaha. No mistaking the look or the sound of those machines. 8 is Michael Rutter on that RC213V, and it just sounds wicked, ticking over. But of course it's all about this 6.13, 6.2 kilometer racetrack, slightly reprofiled this year. Nothing that will concern anybody, doesn't change the track length, none of the corners have changed, and a little bit extra in the way of collapsible barriers, particularly at turns 1, 2 and 3. And that's always good. This circuit always improves. It's hard to make safety improvements on a circuit that is a street circuit, and until a few hours ago was home to buses, taxis and goodness knows what else. But as you see, Michael Rutter anxious to get going. Andre Pires was also in a big hurry to go. Paul Jordan, Craig Neve, they're all joining him now. This session is the one where you ride round and remind yourself what it's like. Your muscle memory comes back to you with a bit of luck. And by the end of this hour, in theory, the track layout should be a reflex again for those who've been here many times, and should be familiar to those who are on their 2nd or 3rd visit perhaps. Very difficult layout here at Macau. It's a very challenging circuit to race on. It's divided into 4 sectors now instead of 3. And it's the long second and third sectors, which are where all the challenge is. These twists and turns between the Armco look similar, let's say that. They look the same to some of us if you've ever seen it on an onboard lap or watched it on here. Black, yellow, black, yellow, black, yellow. That's what the riders see. So knowing where you are and where you're going to go next really is critical to a good lap. So you'll see the more experienced riders make their mark on the timesheets early as it all comes back to them. And we're looking at probably something under 2 minutes 30 seconds for these early laps here in free practice. 2:29 was the quickest time last year, but it soon went down and the pole was 2:23. Stuart Easton's lap record, it's threatened in qualifying, and both Peter Hickman and Glenn Irwin have gone quicker, but only in qualifying. So will we see a lap record? Conditions are in fact ideal for it. We've had some iffy weather since Stuart did it back in 2010, I think, and so we may well see the lap record threatened this year, and if we do, we may get an inkling of that in this practice session. But as we say, not really expecting them to set the track alight in these early laps, just completing the out laps. It's all flat out from here. Turn one, there it is, the first left in front of them. Takes them down to the formidable right turn at Mandarin. So named for the Mandarin Oriental Hotel that isn't there anymore, but the corner is still Mandarin. Michael Rutter is the man who filled the frame there and leads this little pack. Everybody's queuing up behind Michael to have a look and see what he does, but he's too clever to show everybody what he's got in his locker this early in the day. Horst Seiger on the Yamaha, tipping into the right-hander at Lisboa by the hotel. Turn right again under the bridge. This is going up the San Francisco Hill. We're into sector 2 here, and this is where it gets tricky. You can see the lights flashing green there. New electronic lighting installed this year, and the flag signals are supplemented by the light panels, and you'll see them all around the circuit. It's not to make a big difference to the bike riders, but for the car riders, what it means is that they can have areas of yellow flag instead of full course yellow. And if you've watched the car races, the number of times an accident on one corner has brought the whole 6 kilometers to a virtual standstill is, well, countless really. And being able to isolate incidents like that and put yellow out in a small sector is going to be quite interesting for them. Won't change our lives on two wheels very much at all. Much as these early laps aren't going to change the lives of any of these riders until they really start to get in the groove. So we'll find out. It is an hour-long session. We've got 55 minutes of it still ticking away. Just completing the first timed laps, and we'll see who's what and where, and somewhere on the timesheet here today will be that man Hutchinson. Yep, Ian Hutchinson is back at Macau, and obviously still suffering from the effects of appalling injuries to his leg. You can't describe it any other way. Hutchie is much stronger and fitter than we've seen him for a long time, and Michael Sweeney got the better of Michael Rutter on that lap. So 2:43 is our opening bid for the fastest time of the morning, and Michael Rutter 2:44, Paul Jordan 2:45, Phil Crow 2:47, 2:49 for Andre Perez. So pretty much what we were expecting. It'll creep down now towards 2:30. Peter Hickman hasn't put in a representative time yet, but as you can see, he's out on the circuit and already doing purple things to the timing screen in the first two sectors. Fast in the first and second is what you have to be, because it's just long straights joined up by sweeping corners. Then round here, you really need Michael Rutter looking round to see what Nico Sweeney's doing there, and he's just following. Thank you very much. I'm just learning a few things off you here. And again, Peter Hickman, purple in sector 3. Which takes him up towards the right-hander at police. He's just in front of these boys here on the racetrack. And I don't think that they are going to be quicker than him by any stretch. Didier Grams at the moment has gone to the top of the timesheets, Mark Spenny. But then there goes Hickey. He's just finished that lap, 2:34. Just a little bit of an issue there, but no problems. That's the escape road that was re-profiled. We were talking about before, and Erno Costamo, the Finnish rider on one of the many Pens machines, has used the escape road. That's just been re-profiled so that it's more in line with the racetrack. And again, that's something that will make a big difference to the car drivers, but probably less so to us on two wheels, although plenty of people have visited it over the years. You come down that long straight, and if your brakes don't lock on, and that's exactly what's happened. He's gone straight under the camera and up the escape road at Lisboa. Plenty of room there, as you can see, to turn round. So Hickman, Grams, Dave O. Johnson, Mark Giovanni, Michael Sweeney, it was. Horst Seigers. It's changing all the time now as we start to settle into the laps, and it is the people who've got a few visits under their belt who are making the times early. Michael Rutter is looking for him well down the timing sheets in 8th place. Peter Hickman at the top. So that looks a bit more like Michael Rutter settling in now. Got a bit of clear air. He's broken away from Michael's. He's either let Sweeney go, or, and I haven't got that map. There is a map that you'll be able to see it online and see where everybody is on the racetrack. And later on it'll become important, and we'll be using that as well. But right now, in this free practice session, not quite the issue that it will be in qualifying. Our next session will be qualifying later on this afternoon, 4 o'clock in the afternoon Macau time, so 8 o'clock in the morning European time. It'll be the first of the qualifying sessions. Good look at the circuit from a rider's eye point of view, and you can see it is black, yellow, black, yellow, black, yellow everywhere you look. Number 9, Ian Hutchinson. We were talking about him earlier on. We'd all like to see Hutchie do well here, and we all remember that fairy tale win, what, 5 years ago, 2013. But I don't think there's going to be any fairy tales for Ian Hutchinson here this week. But a good steady ride and a good finish would be something that all his fans have got their fingers crossed for and would be pleased with, and maybe that'll launch him into a strong 2020. His complete determination to go on doing this, regardless of how long, hard and difficult it is to get back to full fitness is quite extraordinary. Hickman is still our top man and is doing more purples as we speak. Gary Johnson goes up into second place. John McGuinness just going down to fourth on the Chak Chun group by PBM Ducati. PBM being that man Paul Bird. Good season back home in the UK. Comes to Macau hoping for a decent result, but not expecting John McGuinness to ride out of his skin just because he's on that bike. That's what he said. He wants John to be John McGuinness, that's all. And let's face it, you don't need to do much more than that, do you? If you could be John McGuinness, you'd got it made, really. So Hickey again, purple in sector 2 and sector 3. It's 3 and 4 where you make the difference. Just a quick look at 71 there, Phil Crow. Davey Morgan normally races that 71. But the race organisers here have handed him number 3 this year, which is not a bad number to have, of course, especially considering where he comes from. A lot of riders together now, having a look at each other and the circuit and finding out where they are. 7 in the middle of that pack. Gary Johnson, we've just seen him pop up in 3rd place. Gary's been here a good few times, knows his way around, and there's Sweeney now, 62, and behind that was Paul Jordan on the luminous Devitt Racing Kawasaki. .45, Mac Treveni is now, he's down to 4th now. He was 3rd, down to 4th, but improving. Look, green means that the rider's improved his time. Purple means he's better than anybody in that sector. You probably know that. Macau hairpin at the top of the circuit, end of sector 3, brings them out into this sector 4. This is where it's just an open throttle. We're back up around the circuit. Pile. You really need to know your way around here, and of course he does. That's a shame. The tall, the high-rise buildings around here make it very difficult to get live signal off the motorbikes. Cars do rather better because they don't lean over. But every time Hickey rolls that bike on its side, the helicopter loses the signal because it disappears in among the buildings. Don Maria is the last, this long curve before the hairpin. Though this 4th sector's almost over and it'll end as he goes down the hill. So if you look down by the signage there, you'll see he crosses the line and his no big deal time there for the man Peter Hickman. So what's he keeping up his sleeve, if anything? As we say, this is not meant to be any laps to set the circuit alight, but we are down in the 233s for Peter Hickman, John McGuinness 235, or Seiger 235, Gary Johnson 239, Mac Treveni 239. And they're all improving. 233 for Hickman, 235 McGuinness, we said that, didn't we? But Gary Johnson 236. Davo Johnson 237. So all heading down towards the that sort of territory. There was Davey Morgan at the back of that little trio there. Didier Grams, previous IRRC champion, runner-up twice, and runner-up behind Davey Todd this year. so close between the walls and the fencing. You've really got to be precise, and you've really got to be sure. Craig Neve, number 2, on his second visit to Macau. As we say, no newcomers this year, so everybody's got a fair idea of where they're going and where they're going next. That's the important thing. With these, you used to call these combination corners, this back section of the circuit. On the circuit races, you say it was a combination corner, and what you do in the first of a combination corner is really dictated by what you need to do in the next bit. Because you can be quick in the entry, the first corner, and the next one along. If you're not in the right place and at the right speed, then you're in a lot more trouble and you're going to lose the lap. Phil Crow is down the bottom of my timesheet in 14th place at the moment, 2:39. So there or thereabouts. Gary Johnson in front of him. Gary Johnson often takes the newcomers round in the bus here and shows them the circuit and explains how to do it. And you get that at every circuit race event. There's somebody showing the newcomers around. As we say, no newcomers, but Gary Johnson, I'm sure, will not mind having Crowe on his back wheel for a lap or two while they go round. The sun's a bit of an issue, isn't it? A low sun in the morning can be right in your eyes, and it will be an issue again later today, but it'll be the setting sun. We need is a couple of delays during the day in the schedule caused by overexcited car drivers, and you'll find that your first qualifying session will have a lot of low sun. We've seen that in the Bike Grand Prix itself on a Saturday afternoon, that the sun's been a problem. It's been a while since we had a problem with rain, and fingers crossed that's not going to happen. Weather forecast says not. And it's, as you can see, a gorgeous sunny morning here in Macau. It is a perfect morning to go bike racing, perhaps not quite so early next time. The bikes always draw the short straw, so they're always first out. They're always the first to find out where the buses have had a breakdown during the night. They do a brilliant job, of course, sweeping, cleaning and polishing this circuit, but it's green every morning at 7:30 when the bikes come out, and you have to start all over again. Rob Hodgson is the third man in that little trio. See arms going up for people looking for the pit lane entrance. It's just here on the right hand side of the picture as they tip right into the last corner, turn 23. The pit lane entrance is pulling off to the left there. So it's still Peter Hickman, but like everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people now, we've done 20 minutes, and so the top 3 are all in pit lane. And in 20 minutes, you'll know exactly where your bike is and what you want to do to it. Not exactly, obviously, but you'll know where you are to make those first adjustments and hopefully take you in the right direction. Little leaderboard to tell you exactly where Gazza is in the scheme of things at the moment. 7th place, 236.6. There's time to find for him and for everybody else, and there'll be some adjustments to be made for everybody. More orange going up on the timing screen, more people pulling into pit lane. Up the hill, Moorish Hill, and then on to Donna Maria, swinging left. A lot of the time you've got to be patient with the throttle. Even on your best lap, you can see there that you can't just throw the bike at the corners and sort them out. You have to know what's coming and how long you've got to hold back on the throttle before you can go. So coming to the end of this lap, and greens in the first two sectors for Gary Johnson, so it definitely improving. That's the name of the game, and staying out more laps. Turn 1 coming up to turn 2, and just coming out of pit lane means you keep over to that side and have a look round before you join in. Be up to speed. I'll be up to speed by now in the race, believe me, but this is where the out braking is done, the late braking. And getting this right is critical to a good lap and a decent lap time, as well as to racing advantage. There'll be a bit of shoulder to shoulder to stuff come Saturday afternoon here, going into Lisboa. Rob Hodgson still following Gary Johnson, although Gary's kind of pulled away a bit, hasn't he? And I don't know whether that's because Rob has decided, see how you have to make those directions. You've got to know, haven't you, doing things like that, exactly where you are on this racetrack and what's coming next. And just about everybody is in pit lane at the moment, apart from these few. Hodgson, yes, he has definitely backed off, hasn't he? Left Didier Grahams go through, and maybe that's because he's on his way back to pit lane. He's had to think about what he wants to do, or maybe he wants somebody else to follow. But I would have thought Rob Hodgson is probably into the pit when he gets to this long run down towards the R bend. It's officially the 23rd turn on the circuit now. They've all been given numbers, and most have names. So are we right? Is Rob Hodgson got? Yes, he is definitely coming into pit lane, isn't he? Didier Grahams tips it into the final corner. So Hickman, Johnson, Rob Hodgson did well following. That's got him up into third place on the leaderboard with 2:34, but Gary Johnson went second with 2:33. Peter Hickman is in pit lane with a 2:33.0 as opposed to 2:33.8 for Gary Johnson. So we're creeping towards the 2 minutes 30 marker. And we are creeping towards the halfway marker. 34 minutes left on the clock here. Didier Grahams, the paddock joker. There are a few, you know, and he's one of them. But obviously takes it very seriously when he goes racing. He won't win the IRLC Championship by fooling around. And they say runner-up behind Davey Todd this year, and that's all right, isn't it? He's definitely on a form. Gary Johnson still out there, and that was a purple sector 2 for Gary Johnson. That's the short run up the hill from San Francisco through to the middle of the hilly section. In the faraway hills, there's a timing marker at the Solitude S's for the end of sector 2. So we parceled this 6 kilometers up into roughly 2 kilometer bites. This is San Francisco, way up the hill from which it gets its name. Eternity at the top of the hill is the big right. Cameramen getting their eye in as well. This is their first look at action on the racetrack as well. Don't forget, they've been setting up for the last few days, but they've been looking at buses by the greater number, or taxis. So this is their first look at things travelling at race speeds. John McGuinness. Where is John on our leaderboard? He was quite near the top earlier on. There he is. He's in 6th place, and it's a 2:35. So we'll expect a little bit of an improvement from him, especially since he's gone green. Meaning he's improving. On towards Lisboa, and this is the new pit arrangement. As they say, the bikes are no longer in pit lane as they used to be, but out the back in the paddock, and they're coming out through the tunnel. At this point in time, doesn't really make a great deal of difference, and they're not famous for calling into the race for adjustments either, so it doesn't make a whole heap of difference. John looking very comfortable. Again, a green in sector 1, so that's all about speed, sector 1 really, and the bike could really be able to do that for him. Almost sector 2 though now, where we are, also green, so whatever he's been doing in pit lane has worked, and John now upping the ante at the moment, and so's Gary Johnson. He's upped it completely and gone 2:32. Peter Hickman's just come out of the pits, so he was the fastest man, and now it is Gary Johnson. But with half an hour to go, we can expect things to change. Now, just coming to the end of sector 3 for John McGuinness. Be interesting to see if he's kept the speed up all the way through. Half the riders are on the track at least, and there's a few in pit lane. But John McGuinness's time for the final sector 4, that will tell us he was green all the way through 1, 2 and 3, and if it comes up green on sector 4, then yes it does, and it comes up purple on sector 4. In fact, John McGuinness goes up to 2nd place on the leaderboard. So at the moment it's Gary Johnson 2:32, John McGuinness, Gary Johnson 2:32.1, John McGuinness 2:32.3. So it's moving up and getting faster, but expect Peter Hickman to also change the game. Michael Rutter could also make a difference to the look of the leaderboard, currently in 5th place, and green in the sector 1. Gary Johnson's still out there banging round, and it's paying off, isn't it? I mean, you don't get to the top of the leaderboard by sitting in the pits adjusting your suspension, do you? Laps make a lot of difference, and Gary Johnson obviously has been bringing himself up to speed, and it has been working. It's not racing, but it's exciting, isn't it, when they're this close together? So Peter Hickman pulls past the number 14 bike of Andre Perez, Portuguese rider, and don't forget this was a Portuguese colony in the same way that Hong Kong was a British colony back in the day. Hickey with his foot down at Lisboa, and makes the right turn. Be interesting to see how the times stack up for him on this lap then. Remember, he has been in, he's made the adjustments that he wanted from the first 20 minutes. He set the pace in that first 20-minute part of the session, and while he was in the pits, it moved on. Now he's back on track, and it's possibly going to move on again. A lot of greens, as you can see on the timing screen, which means that everybody is improving. Michael Rutter. You can hear that even in a pack, can't you? And you can tell it's Michael Rutter. Just watching the way he rides, so smooth and tidy. No feet down for Rutter. And now he's got empty track. So let's have a look. John McGuinness is the fastest with a 2:31 now. Gary Johnson has finally got into pit lane. Horst Seiger currently in third place. Peter Hickman is fourth at the moment, but he's purple in sector 2 and sector 3. He's about to finish sector 4. So Peter Hickman could well change the way this leaderboard looks. Other people, of course, have their own ideas about that, but Hickman completes the lap and goes 2:30.3 to be just in front of John McGuinness on a 2:31. Gary Johnson in the pits, Horst Seiger 2:32. Michael Rutter. What will Michael Rutter have in his locker for these laps in the middle, basically, of this hour-long session? Expect the game to go up one more gear before the end of the hour. So down out of the hills goes Michael Rutter, and he's green in every sector he's been in so far, but not purple in any of them. So he's improving, but it might not boost him very far up the leaderboard, and it definitely won't boost him to the top of it. But plenty of time, yeah. They will stay out in this session. So laps under your belt are what counts in this opening practice session of the year. And as you can see, the muscle memory is coming back. Everybody knows what this circuit is about now on the veterans. I can use the word advisedly, but that means that Michael Rutter's got lots of experience here. The veterans will be getting to grips with it faster than the people who've only just on their second or third visit. So 2:33 for Michael Rutter, definitely an improvement for him, but it hasn't really changed very much. There's yellow flags shown here at this Macau hairpin. All the time there's car racing on this circuit because it's too tight for cars to get round and start overtaking, and it does invite an outbraking dive bombing attack, but the bikes can race into Melco. There's no yellows there on two wheels, but it's such an appalling change of height and camber going around that corner that overtaking is not something you're going to see very often. It is where two roads collide really instead of join, and there's physically there's almost a step in the circuit there. It's almost like going to one of those roundy NASCAR circuits. And was that Lee Johnson up the escape road at Lisboa? Oh. I thought we were going to get a replay then, but we might still do. As we were saying, the Melco hairpin, really a very tricky corner for everyone. That's why cars, in fact, some of the cars can't get round there without a little bit of sliding. They could back them in on the handbrake like rally cars. And we have seen a traffic jam of Lamborghinis there because they just couldn't get round the corner. But anyway, back to two wheels. Peter Hickman is fastest, ahead of John McGuinness, Gary Johnson, Horst Seiger, Dave-O Johnson, and then Michael Rutter, who we've just been looking at. This is Hutchie, and he's not in our top 20 at the moment. So we've seen from Ian Hutchinson this long road to what he intends is full recovery. And he's been showing up at races, and he won't mind me saying this, because of the injuries to his leg and the repeated injuries to his leg, he's been a shadow of his former self at road races across the UK and Northern Ireland, and it's only he knows whether it's working, really. That's the bottom line. We're all looking at it and we've got our fingers crossed because we want it to work, and we're hoping that it is recovery and it is bike fitness that's happening, and when Hutchie gets that and gets his eye in, then he will be Ian Hutchinson again, and if it's working he'll know about it, but we can't tell from the outside. All we can see is that he's rusty, he's out of shape. Bike fitness is a different thing to gym fitness. It doesn't matter how long you spend in the gym banging away, and nobody knows this better than Ian Hutchinson. There's no substitute for being on the motorcycle. So there's a whole world of people with their fingers crossed for Hutchie. Dave-O Johnson on the Panigale, the other Paul Bird machine. Where is he at the moment? Let's have a look. He is in 6th place, but back out after pit visits, and you no doubt things will change and things will improve. What's Michael Rutter doing? Up to 3rd place with that. The lap that we haven't just seen was the 2:32, and that puts him just about 3/10 behind John McGuinness, who is about a second behind Peter Hickman. John McGuinness is in pit lane, which sadly you can't see anymore because the bikes are in that new position. So whereas in previous years you would have seen the pit lane action on camera and we would have known who was doing what, and whether they were just refueling or revisiting the suspension, whatever, you would have known that. Now they disappear. It's like the curtain in The Wizard of Oz. They go behind the screen and you never know what's happened to them. Peter Hickman, we can see what's happening to him. 2:29.23 is his time, but he's just gone purple in sector 2. Now everybody can be fast in sector 1 and sector 4, so the ones that really count and make a difference are 2 and 3. This is where circuit knowledge and just raw talent make a world of difference. And if you can be quick here, and he just has been, then you can be quick around the lap. So down the hill, out of the Melco hairpin, and we'll get a look at what happened in sector 3, and that's not even an improvement for Peter Hickman in that sector. So what we've seen before is riders sandbagging just a little bit in previous years and just not putting their fastest lap together until the very end of a session. So purple in sector 2, back off and have a look around sector 3, come back and go purple in sector 3 but not sector 2. But he's gone purple in sector 4, so the speed section of the circuit is working for him, and that has really upped the game. 228.9 for Peter Hickman. Now remember, last year it was 229 was the quickest lap in this session. So even with a somewhat iffy middle sector 3, and I say iffy for Peter Hickman, and by his standards, by the standards of the rest of that lap, even with that, 228 for Peter Hickman with 17 minutes to go. You can see across the bottom of the screen, if you're following a particular rider, their improvements come up as a little green background to their time. So Max Benny has just improved on his previous sector 1 time. Whether that will be an improvement over the whole, that remains to be seen. Peter Hickman's just done another purple sector 2, which means he's going quicker than he was before. And is he going to keep it up through sector 3? We'll find out very, very shortly. There's me saying we would never look in the garage, and there we are looking behind the scenes in the garage. But Hickman, he's at the Moorish Hill. Donna Maria is almost at the end of this third sector. I haven't seen anybody with him. Doesn't seem to be anybody in front of him. So if he was ever going to do a purple sector 3, this could well be it. So he hasn't had any interference, but of course it does take so very little to change that and make it into a regular. Oh no, yes, there we go. Purple, 49.1 for the sector. So it was purple sector 2, purple sector 3 for Peter Hickman. And this could well be the defining lap of this session. Might even raise the game and raise the stakes even further before the end of it. We'll just check it. It was 228.9 before, and it's now 228.00, so 007 for Peter Hickman. So 228.0 is where we're at for the benchmark in this session. Now McGuinness, Rutter and Gary Johnson are all in the pits. Horst Seiger is just on his way out, and Lee Johnston's in the pits. Hutchie's in the pits. Derek Shields, haven't seen much of him, he's in the pits. And Rob Hodson, and they're all just coming out now for their final run at this. I think that will be 15 minutes on the clock, so I don't think the people coming out will be going back in for anything else. And Peter Hickman just finished off that lap with a bit of a flourish. He went purple in sector 1, so he's had purple times in all of the sectors now. He only had 3 purples on that 228.0, so there is room for improvement. So if he could do purple again in 2 and 3 and 4, then it's going to move it on quite considerably. Hickman, at the moment, the consummate road racer of his generation, and the benchmark everywhere he goes, the fastest road racer in the world. But no purple in sector 2 this time, so you won't see this lap, I don't think, go below the 228. 227 would be just about on the cards if all the cards fall the right way for him in this session. And of course we've got plenty of other people who might do something similar. David Johnson, Davo's just gone second, 2:30, so he is 2 seconds away from Peter Hickman's time in this session. You can see the leaderboard on the left-hand side with 13 minutes to go. But Peter Hickman massively out in front. So Davo, well, this is going to be a big ask to get anywhere near Peter Hickman. Formidable bike, of course, that he's riding, but a lot of the time it's not so much the motorcycle as your familiarity with it. You think back to the good old days. Michael Doohan kept his favourite Honda when everybody around him was getting the new from the factory, and Doohan kept the bike he liked because he could win races on it, because he knew exactly what it was going to do. And sometimes that's so, until there's a big step forward, unless somebody makes a giant leap in race bike technology, and of course it does happen, but if you know the thing you're riding, a lot of the time that's a better weapon to have in your arsenal than to have something that's formidable but is a bit of a handful. Davo having a look round, and quite obviously looking for a bit of space. I would say that he's going to do that again. Second place, 2:30. Hickman's in pit lane, and he's got time to come out again if he wants to, but this is not qualifying, so the times are academic, really. They are for guidance only. This is a form guide for what's going to happen later on this afternoon, and he's laid his marker down, hasn't he, Peter Hickman? And you can see how hard he's working. It is ever so hot here, and it's really difficult to adjust to the heat and the humidity. They've been out here for a week acclimatizing, and it sounds fun, doesn't it? Yes, go and spend a week in the tropics just to acclimatize, but you really need it when you're doing something as physical as this. And these boys are athletes, and they are working really super hard, and they're going to be doing it again at 4 o'clock this afternoon. So in 8 hours time they'll be back out on this circuit, and they'll be doing all of this again, and that will be qualifying. And although the second qualifying session, which happens on Friday morning at horrible o'clock here, 7:30 again, but the second qualifying session will decide the grid unless there's a thunderstorm or something, and everybody has to take it gently, but it will decide the grid. And Costomo, the Finnish rider, where is he? I think he's just outside the top 20. Yeah, no, there he is. That was a lap and a bit, wasn't it? 7th place on the leaderboard at the moment. He's 2:32. He's a good 4 seconds away from Peter Hickman, but a lot of people are, so he's in good company. I think everyone's at least 2 seconds away from Peter Hickman. The 2.9 is the gap between Davo Johnson and Peter Hickman. And I'm just looking, his gap to the leader is 4.5. So he can improve. And almost certainly will in the last few minutes of this session. And Gary Johnson down in 6th place now, just coming out of pit lane. Lee Johnston down in 8th, coming out of pit lane, and Hutchie in 10th, just coming out of pit lane. Tenth place for Hutchie on every leaderboard this week could be a fine thing to see. But it's Hickman from Dave O. Johnson, Horse Tiger, John McGuinness, and Michael Rutter. That's your top 5 at the moment. Gary Johnson 6th, as we say. A lot of work through these middle sectors. It's uphill as well as downhill, as well as corners. So there's plenty to do until you come back out onto the sea walls. They come out of the Melco hairpin, down Blacktown's Hill, they turn right at Fisherman's, and then this is the final corner on the circuit. Arben, the reservoir, and the reservoir's there, and that defines the circuit shape a little bit as well. It's squared off at that part. And what are we going to see from these guys? It's all staying out. Michael Rutter, some greens on his timing screen. Horse Tiger, a little bit of green on his. And a green first sector for Erno Costomo. And there is Michael Rutter. He was greened in sector 1 and sector 2, so he's improving. And he's improving quite a bit, actually. This is going to bring him up into contention, we think, don't we? Yes. 4th place. But room for improvement. Sector 1 is green, as you can see from the bottom of the screen. And he's in sector 2. This part of the circuit so suited to Rutter's style. It's just got to be smooth and tidy, no mistakes, know what you're doing, know where you're going, and ride the bike cleanly. And that is Michael Rutter's trademark, isn't it? That's what's made him the most successful rider of all time here at Macau. Haslam's 6 was the benchmark for years, but Rutter's passed that. But that 9th seems now to be tantalisingly out of reach. Is Peter Hickman tantalisingly out of reach? Rutter didn't actually improve on his sector 2 time, although Erno Costomo did, as you can see, green. So, and Lee Johnson's going green, Max Bennett's going green, Hutty's got a green first sector. So that's happening now, improvement really across the board as we move in towards the last 5 minutes of the first session of the 2019 Macau Grand Prix. Michael Rutter green in sector 3, so nice improvement for him. You can see he's had traffic to contend with as well. That makes such a difference on those 2 sections through the faraway hills, because the track, although it looks wide, when you lie a motorcycle down on its side and there's only one line for it, it's very difficult to even think about a passing manoeuvre up there, so it tends not to happen. And 2:30.6, Michael Rutter, 3rd fastest. So Peter Hickman 2:28 in the pits, Dave O. Johnson 2:29 in the pits, and Michael Rutter 2:30.5, still on track, and still presumably hoping for an empty racetrack as he heads towards the hilly section of the circuit. John McGuinness is 5th fastest now, just coming out of pit lane, and so is Horse Tiger. But yes, there's half the field is in pit lane, so this is looking good if Michael Rutter... Davey Morgan, is that the Lisboa escape road? Waiting for his moment and rejoining. Better now than later, eh? And this is where you find out how late you can break there, and the answer is not as late as that. But Michael Rutter, another improvement in sector 2, and he's definitely on it on this part of the lap as well. Police and Moorish Hill. Almost to the end of the third sector, this long sweep they call Donna Maria. Melco hairpin ahead. Davo Johnson's just emerged from pit lane, so you may see him raise the game a little bit. Michael Rutter, we're still waiting to see what he does in sector 3. Yes, another green, so he's improved in the two middle sectors. And two things you can count on is that Michael Rutter is remembering, it's all coming back to him. He's getting faster, and he knows that he can be faster as well through there. So if he can have a little green in this sector as well, then this will be a good lap for him. The third quickest at the moment. Oh, and that was very nice, thank you very much. 2:29.0. So he's just popped in front of Davo Johnson, who was on a 2:29.6 but has just come out of pit lane. So Peter Hickman is, I think, is probably taking it easy in pit lane and basking in the glory of 2:28.007 with 2 minutes to go. Even if he came out now, he wouldn't be able to get a lap in, so that's him done. And Michael Rutter, 272 on the speed trap, so that, and gone purple, so he's quickest there. And that counts along those two sections, sector 4 and sector 1, and also means that you find out exactly how fast you can't go on the run towards Lisboa. So no big improvement now. Michael Rutter, I think that's what you'll see for him, but this is a very encouraging session for everybody. The quickest time last year, as we said, was a 2:29, and the quickest time this year is a 2:28. Michael Rutter 2:29, Davo Johnson 2:29, but he might get one timed lap in. Lee Johnston there, just a quick glimpse of him. He's spent a bit of time in the pits on the Ashcourt rating BMW, back out on track, and he has just gone green in sector 1. He's currently 6th on the leaderboard, green in sector 2. So a last minute improvement for him, and he's got someone to follow as well. That'll be fun for Lee Johnston. He's been here a few times, missed it last year, but he's not a newcomer by any stretch of the imagination. In front of him, that number 9, Michael Rutter, he's letting Lee Johnston go, so no masterclass for Lee. He'll have to get on Hutchie's back wheel, but Michael Rutter very politely keeping out of everybody's way. So Lee Johnston green in the first two sectors. Davo Johnson has just gone out. Davo's green in sector 1. Lee Johnston green in sector 3 as well. So big improvements for Lee Johnston here. Hutchie also green in sector 2, but not sector 3. So Hutchie improving as well. He's down in 11th place at the moment. And we've only got a couple of seconds left on the leaderboard. So the last few riders going over the line. Little group, yes, did cost them, so no greens for anybody in sector 4 there, as they all got bunched up at the end of the lap. And so it doesn't help Lee Johnston improve his position, 6th on the leaderboard. Michael Rutter second behind Nicky. Davo Johnson 2 greens at the moment, still waiting for him to complete sector 3, so there might be a bit of an improvement, but there's the checkered flag, so nothing else will develop now except for the people finishing the laps they're on. So that hour went pretty quickly, really, didn't it? So, according to my timing screen here in Macau, Peter John Hickman is the fastest rider on track with that 2:28.007. Michael Rutter 2:29.0. Davo Johnson, I don't know. He might improve a little bit. He's currently third, green, and he still stays second, so 2:29.4. So he's a couple of tenths off Michael Rutter's time. So there we are then. It is Peter Hickman who tops it from Michael Rutter, Davo Johnson. Oh, John McGuinness jumps up into fourth place. And just in front of Horst Seiger, Lee Johnston sixth, Gary Johnson, Didier Grams, Rob Hodgson, Erno Costomo, Phil Crow, Hutchie, Marek Chibeni and Steve Hannigan rounding out the top 15. So that is where we are at the end of what has been a lovely, pleasurable hour on track for us and hopefully for all the riders. No grief that we could see, no problems that we could see. We don't get to see into pit lane, unfortunately, from here, so can't really tell if there was anything going on mechanically, but the leaderboard looks pretty much how you'd expect it to look. And as we say, nice safe session, nice great start to the 2019 Macau Grand Prix. Giving myself 10 years back there. 2019 Macau Grand Prix, perfect start. And the bikes are, as ever, one of the most popular things that happens here. Everybody loves the smash and bash of the car races, but the bike racing here, if you want to know the definition of an excitable crowd, then you need to come here and watch this race, and you need to watch it from opposite the grandstands, on one of the grandstands where they've got the big screen, so you can see what's happening, and you can also see the reaction, because the oohs and ahs just go on all day long. So it is one for the bucket list, has to be said. It's in shadow at the moment because the morning sun hasn't quite lifted high enough to light up all the streets, but you can see it's a glorious day, and there's plenty more to do besides the racing, but this is what you should be here for. Peter Hickman, shall we say he is the favourite now for a fourth win? I think you've got to say that. He probably was that arriving here. He probably was, wasn't he? Arriving here, you'd have to say that he's the odds-on favourite, especially with his form this year. The boy's on fire, and he's just really underlined that with a dominant performance in first practice, although his lead has been slashed to a second. So he's only 1 second quicker than Michael Rutter, but Hickman once again the man to beat. Last few riders coming in off track, and there are our leaderboards and times, and you can see the gaps for yourself, and all pretty close together. In the top 5, there's not a lot in it between everybody else, but it's that second at the top that marks out Peter Hickman as the man of the moment. Phil Crow in 11th place, Hutchie finishing 12th there, Marek Chibeni, Steve Hannigan. We were talking about Derek Shields, didn't see much of him on track, but there you are in 15th place, Paul Jordan, Brian McCormack, Davey Todd 19th. Now, we were saying the leaderboard was pretty much as we expected it, and probably that isn't as we expected it, is it? We probably expected Davey Todd to have been a little higher up that leaderboard, so it may well be that that's one of the unseen problems that we were talking about. No way of knowing if he was having issues or not. we'll know by this afternoon, and we'll know who's on provisional poll this afternoon, because we're back in 8 hours, 4 o'clock local time. Offhand,